We're going to make an episode you can't refuse.
Nice.
Yeah, that's the best I can come up with.
That was a pretty good impression, I will say.
Really? I feel like that's pretty bad. Hey, that just turned more into New York mobster.
That's pretty good, I would say. That's better than anything I can do.
Well, now I want to hear your version.
Hey, I'm walking here. I think we just got to get into the episode right away.
Back to the Uncultured Pop Culture Podcast. I am David as usual. I don't know why I paused there before my own name.
And I'm Brandon.
Yeah, thank you. You would think that like 6 or 5 or whatever months in, I would get that down.
It's fine. You don't do it every time. I also take some of the time. You know, that's part of the problem.
So I've really only been doing it for 3 months.
Right, exactly. What did you watch this past week?
This is actually a first. I watched a movie based off of your recommendation.
Whoa.
That's right. I saw Sorry Baby. If you remember that you recommended that to me.
Because I heard it was supposed to be good. I didn't see it, for the record.
Yes, I saw it in theaters based off your recommendation. And you said it might be a candidate for best, or one of the best movies of the year, one of the top 10. And it is a candidate. It was very good.
Ooh, nice.
Yeah.
Would you rate it?
I think you should watch it. I gave it a 4.5.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Intriguing.
It's definitely a movie that I think you should watch more than once. It was interesting because it deals with a very heavy topic, but the film itself isn't heavy because it's also very funny. But the fact that it's funny doesn't take away from kind of the weight of what it's about. And I thought that was really, really I felt like kind of like a breath of fresh air to have a movie about a heavy topic that kind of lets you breathe a little. And it was really well done. It could have been done in a way where it didn't work, but it totally worked. So I recommend.
Nice.
So that's 1 for 1 for you, for your recommendations.
Hell yeah.
Now, I got to ask, what have you listened to in this past week or a couple of weeks?
Similar to you, I have a 4.5 album that has recently come out called Never Always by the band Camino. I know I've talked about them before. This album might be their best album yet.
Wow.
This is going to be on my year-end list. I can tell you that much. I don't know where it'll be.
Right.
As of right now, it's pretty close up to the top.
I gotta say, it's been a good week for us.
It has, and it's been weirdly a pretty good summer for music, which is not something that I've really ever said before, because summer's not usually a time when music is doing too well. But I got a few albums coming out this Friday that I'm excited for too.
That's interesting because I feel like the summer for me, which is kind of prime big movies season, has been just kind of eh.
Yeah, the blockbusters aren't huge this year, weirdly.
Well, in terms of money, yeah, but then in terms of just quality, they're fine. But Fantastic Four is bombing right now, for reference of when we're recording this episode.
Yeah, well, it'll still probably either be bombing when this episode comes out or out of theaters entirely.
It'll have finished bombing. So I
also did listen to another album this week that wasn't as good, but I did think was worthy of a shout out, which is Crash Bogus by Torr, Torr. He is a hyperpop artist who is now doing something else. I don't know what to call it, probably indie rock, but it's a concept album, and I love a concept album, so I have to shout that out. It wasn't my favorite all the way through. There are a few songs I didn't like as much, but I thought it had a lot of really nice moments, and I love the concept as well. So, and then one last thing is the new song that I have to do from each New Music Friday. And this week's choice is Freak It by Kim Petras. This is maybe her best single ever.
For you, what does that mean? Are you a big fan of her other singles? Or is this the first one that's spoken to you?
No, there's been other songs that I've liked by her a lot. This is the first one where I was blown away. I heard a preview of it on TikTok from a performance by her that was recorded and then compressed even more, and it the audio quality was awful, and I was still this song is crazy.
Wow.
This is so good. And then I heard the final version and I was correct. So That is up on my songs of the year as well. So everyone check out Freak It.
I will definitely check it out.
And everybody freak it right now, too.
Perfect time with the release of Freaker Friday, too.
And speaking of Freak It, let's get into this freaking album. Are you ready to die?
I am ready to die.
Me too. Anyway, this album is Ready to Die by the Notorious B.I.G. It was released September 13th, 1994 by Bad Boy Records and distributed by Arista, which is part of Sony. If you don't recognize the label Bad Boy Records, this will give you a hint. It was executive produced by Sean Puffy Combs, also known as P. Diddy.
I wonder what he's up to these days.
Yeah, I really do wonder. Probably nothing extremely bad.
Gee, I wonder.
Well, let's get into it right away with track number 1, which is called Intro. This one is written by Christopher Wallace, also known as the Notorious B.I.G., and it was produced by Diddy. Yay.
Yeah.
It samples Rapper's Delight by Sugar Hill Gang, Superfly by Curtis Mayfield, The Shiznit by Snoop Dogg, and Top Billin' by Audio 2. I have no notes about this song, and I also didn't rate it. This is the intro to the album. Cool.
Yeah. I wanted to say, first things first, before I talk about the song, I literally saw Snoop Dogg walking around in Santa Monica like 4 days ago.
That's true.
3 days ago, something like that. So I guess now I have a connection to this album.
You do?
That being said, I wrote down a note for the intro that says this is the literal birth of the album.
Yes. I think it's pretty cool.
Yes.
I will say that.
I think it's an interesting idea. I don't know how much I want to listen to that in an album.
Yeah.
But it is a very interesting idea.
And I don't know if he was the first one to do it, but one thing that will come up a lot through these tracks is that he is very influential. And this is my first time listening to any of his music. I've listened to a lot of more like modern rap music, and hearing some of it, I was like, whoa, this sounds like everyone's trying to copy him.
And I feel like there's a specific person that kind of brought to mind in the sense of like, you can see Notorious B.I.G's like influence on them. And that person was kind of Kendrick Lamar.
Interesting.
To me, it felt like they both had a lot of poetry to their lyrics.
I do want to say something about that because Kendrick Lamar is very famously from Los Angeles. Notorious B.I.G. is very famously from Brooklyn.
Right.
And this was the height of East Coast versus West Coast. And that is the reason that Tupac and Biggie died, which is also kind of the reason I didn't really have a lot of background on this album, is because that is something that I don't feel that I am an authority on and I can't really speak to. So everyone go look that up on your own time.
Yeah, especially since I know a lot of people say that a lot of that is still crowded in mystery.
Yeah.
Kind of, as to who it actually was and all that kind of stuff.
Biggie did tragically pass away in a shooting in Los Angeles, of all places. I think it was 16 or 17 days before the release of his second album. This is his first album. So he only released one album when he was alive. And that album was called Ready to Die, which is ironic in a weird way, in a like morbid way, I guess. It's interesting because I also wonder what would have happened to his legacy, I guess, if he was still alive. And what else he would have done. Like, where would music be? And people have talked about this with a lot of other like famous artists that died young, especially Tupac. And then Michael Jackson's another one. He didn't even die like super young, but he was still like...
Still releasing a lot of music, yeah.
Yeah, so I wonder kind of like what would have happened in pop culture, and especially with rap. But that's a conversation we're going to keep having across all of our rap albums that we end up doing. And I guess that's all I have to say about Intro, which is also kind of the intro to the album. I didn't give this a rating. Did you?
I gave this one a 2.5 just because I don't really want to hear like someone giving birth on an album.
You don't like The Miracle of Life?
I do, but maybe in a different setting. But I still think it's an interesting idea.
Track number 2, which is the first real song on here, is Things Done Changed, which is... Oh, also, I should mention, every single song is solely written by Biggie, except for the one that features Method Man, which is also written by him.
That's kind of crazy considering how many songs there are on this album.
Yeah, he had a lot to say. So I will be reading the producers for every song, which this song is produced by Darnell Scott. And it samples California My Way by The Main Ingredient, Lil Ghetto Boy by Dr. Dre, Summer Breeze by The Main Ingredient, You Don't Hear Me Though by Rodney O and Joe Cooley, and Vapors by Biz Markie. I think this song has a great beat and a great use of samples. I have a line from this song, as I do from most songs. Either you're slinging crack rock or you got a wicked jump shot. That's something that has been coming up to this day. I've heard different variations of this. I don't know if this is the first one, but I thought that he did a good job with it. And then also wanted to say this song kind of follows the progression of the movie. Looking back, everything bad was happening, but it stayed separate from Biggie, or it stayed separate from Michael in the movie. And now things have changed for the worse, and they are now wrapped up in whatever their like struggle is, I guess. Which weirdly has been kind of the same thing.
I agree. I felt like in some way this was about cycles of violence that kind of escalate more as Biggie is pulled into it, which I feel like correlates to the film as it kind of escalates into, oh my God, like half the people died. And this was one of the first songs where when I was listening to it, it popped into my brain that this kind of reminds me of Kendrick Lamar in the sense that the lyrics feel like poetry. Not saying that they sound similar between the two artists, but both of them kind of elevate it to something more than just like words, if that makes any sense.
And that is rap done right.
Exactly.
There's a few songs on here that I think are real standouts, and this is one of them. This one's a 3.5. I really enjoy this song because of the lyrics and because of his flow on this. I think this is a classic, in my opinion.
I agree. This is also 3.5 for me.
Nice.
So
we're off to a good start. Track number 3, Gimme the Loot, produced by Easy Mo B. I got quite a few samples for you here. Cold Blooded by James Brown, Don't Change Your Love by the Five Stair Steps, It's So Hard to Say Goodbye to Yesterday by Boyz II Men, Just to Get a Rep by Gangstar, Scenario Remix by A Tribe Called Quest, Singing in the Morning by Ohio Players, Smokin' Chiba Chiba by Harlem Underground Band, Throw Ya Guns by Onyx, What They Hittin' Fo by Ice Cube, and my personal favorite, Yelper Siren, Multiple Short On-Offs Close Perspective by the Hollywood Edge Sound Effects Library. And yes, that is our second Hollywood Edge Sound Effects Library sample on the podcast. The first one was Daft Punk. So shout out to those guys. They're making some good sounds.
Keep it up, guys.
This song has 2 rappers on it, quote unquote rappers. They're both done by Biggie. A lot of people had expressed that they thought this was another person in the song, but it is just Biggie kind of rapping with himself, which I think is really cool and very well done.
I agree.
This song is also, in my opinion, more of the old style of rap, where the rhymes are within the bar or only last for 2 bars at a time. It's very fast paced. It's very like storytelling focused. And the rhymes kind of, I don't know if they're not like an afterthought, because obviously like you have to rhyme, but it's much more like quick moving, I guess, to get to the next one. Him screaming, "Gimme the loot" on the chorus has been sampled over 100 times. I can't even tell you all of the songs I've heard it on. I also think that the beat on this one is quite good, but for me, it's not as memorable as the first one. And then I got a lyric for you. Oh shit, the cops. Be cool, fool. They ain't gonna roll up. All they want is fucking donuts. Shout out to donuts, not to the cops. Fuck the police. And then the last thing I have to say is this is Rolex mention number 1. I'm going to do a fun little thing where I keep track of 2 things that pop up throughout this album. This is the first time he mentions a Rolex watch. This song is a 3. I thought it was good. It's a step down from the previous one, but I still enjoyed it. What did you think?
Listening to this song, I realized another element that kind of separates good rap from, for lack of a better word, bad rap. And that's that the production is interesting and there's more going on than just a beat, which like obviously a good beat is necessary. Like it's important. But that being said, I completely agree that the beat just isn't as, it doesn't pull you in as much as the previous song. And this is also a 3 for me. We are in agreement. I also did want to say, I did write down a lyric, which is Baka.
Track number 4 is Machine Gun Funk. This one is also produced by Easy Mo B. It samples A Who Said Me Done by Cuddy Ranks, Chief Rocka by Lords of the Underground, I'm Dreamin' by Christopher Williams, Something Extra by Black Heat, Up for the Downstroke by Fred Wesley and the Horny Horns. I know you'll like that one.
I love that
What's
one.
Love Got to Do With It by Tina Turner, and the traditional song Sticks and Stones. I got a lyric for you right here. All I want is bitches, big booty bitches. Let's go.
Story of your life, Brandon.
So true. like the previous song, this chorus is a sample, which I think is interesting because rap, there's kind of like three things you can do for the chorus. It's either a sample, you're rapping, or you get someone else to do it. He does all three of those types of choruses on the album, which I think is kind of cool. And it also keeps it like interesting and fresh. And then this song also has some of my favorite flows and rhymes, but I don't think the beat is as strong as well. So it is a 3, and the funk, baby.
So I did want to say, first of all, the beat drop on this song is excellent. I think it's one of the strongest beat drops in the whole album. I also really like the backing music that kind of progresses from the beginning throughout the song. Not much to say about the song, to be honest. I feel like it did work more for me than Give Me the Loot, so it is a 3.5.
Oh, track number 5 is Warning, produced by Easy Mo B. I got some more samples for you, including 3 of my favorites on the entire album. Bad Boys by Inner Circle, Freak of the Week by Funkadelic, Thinking by The Meters, Walk On By by Isaac Hayes, Pager Standard Alert by Motorola, V2010 440 plus 480 Hertz Ringing Tone North America by the International Telecommunications Union, August Kruko and the Western Electric Company, and of course Q23 Dual Tone Multi-Frequency Signals North American by the International Telecommunications Union, Bell System, and AT&T.
Hell yeah, AT&T.
I know, AT&T getting their first mention on the podcast. I said big shout out to the concept of paging people. This is not something that either of us really grew up with, but it's cool. There's going to be a lot of slow singing and flower bringing if my burglar alarm starts ringing. And then also the skit at the end of this is very funny. Oh shit, you got a red dot on your head. And then they get shot. I think that's pretty good. It's creative. I don't know who the voice is. I couldn't find out who voiced that. I assume one of his friends.
Well, I also did want to shout out the demon dog in this song. That the dog is a demon. Like, that's a demon dog sound. That's not a normal dog.
I wonder what Hollywood Edge sound it is. It didn't tell me. And then the last thing I have to say about this song is this is a Rolex mention number 2, and the introduction of our second category, Lexus mention number 1.
Ooh.
Shout out to Lexuses. He loves his Lexuses for some reason. It's a good car. It's the luxury brand of Toyota, but it's not one that I associate with being like a super like luxury car. So I don't know. Maybe he liked Japanese cars.
For a second, I thought, wait, why didn't he like use Mercedes as the luxury, brand? And then I remembered he isn't Armenian, so I was like, okay, never mind.
Yeah, unfortunately.
But I'm surprised you didn't say like Rolls Royce or something.
Right? Yeah, honorary Armenian biggie.
Exactly.
Depending on how you think about this album, maybe you can grant him that status.
I will grant him that status.
Okay, nice. This track is a 2.5 for me.
Whoa, so you really dislike the song. Or not dislike,
I didn't dislike
but
it. This
was kind of eh.
This is average. It's fine.
That's
true.
I
don't I have nothing bad about it.
I forget our scores are different. This song actually really clicked for me.
Oh.
I loved the flow of the song. It feels so smooth to me, to the point that this is a 4.
Nice. Is this your favorite on the album?
No.
Ooh, okay.
There is going to be a song that's higher. Or actually, there's actually 2 songs that are higher. You can guess and see which one they are if you want, but...
I wrote down a note that I already forgot to say, which was I can't choose a song that I think is going to be your favorite because I feel like you're going to be within 0.5 of each other on all of these songs, but we've already broken that. So... which sample spoke better to you, V2010 440 480 Hertz or the Q23 dual tone multi-frequency signal?
The V225 BC, that one.
Yeah, I agree. That's the ringing tone.
Exactly.
That's a classic.
Yeah.
Track number 6 is Ready to Die, the title track, produced by Easy Mo B. This one samples Ain't No Half Steppin' by Big Daddy Kane, Check It Out by Grand Poobah, Hope That We Can Be Together Soon by Harold Melvin and the Blue Notes, Hospital Prelude of Love Theme by Willie Hutch, Sing a Simple Song by Sly and the Family Stone, Singing in the Morning by Ohio Players, Two to the Head by Cool G Rap and DJ Polo, Yes I'm Ready by Barbara Mason, and the traditional song Now I Lay Me Down to Sleep. One thing that you may have noticed is there are a lot of samples in this album.
Oh, yeah.
And most of them are extremely well done, well chosen, and then like
I agree,
put into the beats super well. This is like peak hip hop sampling, in my opinion.
Yeah, because I feel like nowadays you don't see as many samples used anymore.
Yeah. Or
typically it's like one per song, right?
right. Yeah. It's not like as extensive as this is. Like the 90s were huge for sampling. I mean, we talked about that with Daft Punk as well, which wasn't technically the 90s, but they made a lot of it in the 90s. I got techniques dripping out my butt cheeks. That's the line I took from this.
I like it.
Yeah, I thought that made me laugh out loud. There's a few lines on here that I was just like, that's just funny. Like, that's good. That's what I like when rap can make me laugh and then also, like get me introspective in the same album. I think that's a good album.
Yeah, exactly.
The chorus sounds like it's not in the right key in this song, and it is a little distracting to me. This, to me, feels like a sister song to Warning. And it also, I don't know if it introduces, but it definitely like solidifies the concept of Biggie not caring much about his own life and not valuing that.
Yeah.
He is, I wouldn't say actively suicidal, but he doesn't care if he gets killed. I'll say that.
Yeah, I will say I feel like multiple times throughout the album, he proclaims himself in the songs in a way that kind of feels as though he's like, okay, I'm here, y'all. If you want to shoot me, I'm here. Something like that,
Yeah.
I feel like it definitely gives that impression that not that he actually did in real life, but in the songs, he's kind of like, doesn't try and like not get killed or something. I don't know.
Which is such an interesting perspective because I don't hear a lot of people take that. I haven't heard a lot of people take that approach where it's like he kind of hates himself too. Like as we hear, especially in the last song, but he continues going on living for whatever reason, probably to write raps, which I think are very good. This song, however, is a 2.5. It didn't connect with me as much. Also, I don't want to see no crying at my funeral. Diddy says at the end of this song, don't worry, Diddy. We got you covered. I won't be crying at your funeral. Don't worry. And then, of course, it wouldn't be a complete rating of the song without Rolex mention number 3 and Lexus mention number 2, both on the same track. So what'd you think about it? I
honestly don't have much to say about the song. I wrote one note, and that note was that it has that funk. I gave it a 3. Not the strongest for me.
Yeah, but that's average.
Kind of average, which
we both agree.
Yeah, that's average. So there we go. And we're finally within 0.5 of each other again.
Track number 7, One More Chance, produced by Chucky Thompson, the Blues Brothers, who are Norman Glover and Lord Digga, and Diddy. It samples Dolly My Baby Bad Boy Extended Mix by Supercat and Mary J. Blige, Ghetto Jam by Domino, Hydra by Grover Washington Jr., I Want You Back by the Jackson 5, Knockin' to Boots by H-Town, Mind Playing Tricks on Me by Ghetto Boys, and Stay With Me by DeBarge. I love it when they call me Big Papa. I wonder if that's a reference to a song later in here called Big Papa. It is. The chorus of this song is an interpolation of the Jackson 5, which is sung by Faith Evans, who was Biggie's wife. So shout out to her. Also, because I haven't said it yet, rest in peace, Biggie. I don't know if he was like necessarily a great person all around, but he made some good music. So, and he seemed to care about his family. I'll say that. This song is somehow more freaked out than anything on Prince's album.
I agree.
I don't really even know what's going on here. I also have this line, which I have seen posted as a meme before. Really, though, I got the cleanest, meanest penis.
I wrote down that line too.
Yeah, I did not know that was a real line spoken by a real rapper. It's kind of insane. This song is just wild all around. It is a 2. I don't really care for it.
I wrote down cleanest, meanest penis. I also wrote down don't know how to act when I lick down there.
Yeah.
Those are the 2 lines that I wrote down.
There's quite a few on there you could write down if you feel like it.
Yeah, but I feel like you could write down the whole song, to be honest. It just, if we did that, we would be here for longer. So
yeah,
there we go. I thought it was interesting. I feel like this song kind of shifts to focusing on relationships compared to the previous song, which is an interesting shift. I also wanted to say, I feel like when it comes to pop songs, I typically don't like spoken word sections, or it doesn't work for me. But here in this song, I feel like it works better, which makes me wonder if it just works better for me in general in rap songs. But in general, I think the song is a really good beat. It is absolutely crazy, but I kind of play with the crazy in this song. This is a 3.5.
Oh,
I enjoyed it. Definitely not something I would throw on a lot, but it's very memorable. I will say that.
Talk about a memorable song. Number 8 is Fuck Me Interlude. Shout out to P. Diddy on the beat on this song.
Of course, he had to be involved in this song.
Right. It samples Fiendin' by Jodeci. I did not give this song a rating, and in lieu of any other comments, I'm just going to read an annotation from Genius. Jodeci song playing in the background and sound of Biggie and Lil' Kim having sex on a bed. That's all I got to say.
Yeah, that's all you need to know. Yeah, I mean, I don't have anything else to say. It's just people having sex.
Track number... Did you rate this one, actually?
I did. I gave it a 2. I was just like, I don't need to. I don't really need
I
to
didn't
listen
rate
to
this. It's not a song.
It's not. I was just like.
I mean, there's a Jodeci song in it, but like.
Yeah, but it's kind of hard to hear it when people be moaning and you hear all the sounds.
Yeah.
Kind of distracting. I just don't really need to listen to sex. Unless I want to listen to it specifically, I'm not gonna I'm not interested, you know?
Yeah. There is a meme that I've seen for a long time of people talking about like rap albums from the 90s and early 2000s where it would be like a run of like 5 of your favorite songs ever and then just like an extended interlude of people having sex, and it's like, I didn't need to hear this in the album. Also, I'm 12. Like so that's a pretty great thing. Anyway, track number 9.
The what?
The What? Featuring Method Man, the only song that is not solely written by Biggie, because it's also written by Method Man, and it's produced by Easy Mo B. It samples Can't Say Enough About Mom by Leroy Hudson, Overnight Sensation by Avalanche, and What You Talking About, Willis from the TV show Different Strokes. I don't know if I'd count that as a sample, but they do say it, so who sampled says it is a sample. I love the idea and concept, and in practice most of the time, of trading bars between rappers. They do this throughout the entire song, and I think it works super well. Also, best line on this song is Method Man yelling, "Bitch!" This one's a 3. The beat wasn't like as good as some of the other ones, but I do think it is definitely a standout on the album because of the fact that Method Man is the only feature.
I agree that the beat isn't as strong as some of the other songs. In some way, I feel like this song feels a little bit lighter than a lot of the songs in the first album. I don't know what that necessarily means. I don't think it that just came to my head when I was listening to it.
It is a little bit more fun.
Yeah, I think that might be what it is.
It's not as like dark and serious.
I also did note that this is one of the songs where Biggie kind of proclaims himself and like puts him out there, kind of going back to what we talked about before. But yeah, I think it's a fine song. It's a 3. It's not as strong as a lot of the previous songs. We're back on the same page.
Track number 10 is Juicy, produced by Poke and Diddy, and it's alleged to be produced by Pete Rock. He says that he did the original beat and then Diddy stole it from him. You know, I am inclined to believe him because I think Diddy, doesn't have a history of being a good person. It samples both the original and the fruity instrumental mix of Juicy Fruit by M. Tomb, I don't know if that's how you say it, and Rappin' Duke by Rappin' Duke. I have a line from this song, Blow Up Like the World Trade. This is 1993. He either predicted 9/11 or this is a reference to the 1993 bombing of New York City's World Trade Center. On February 26, 1993, a group of Middle Eastern terrorists detonated a van packed with explosives in the basement parking lot of the center's North Tower. The attack, which produced minimal damage to the building, was in response to America's support of Israel. Interestingly relevant right now. Biggie is quote-unquote blowing up, quickly becoming rich and famous, and here he's using a recent explosion as a metaphor for a sudden impact. After the September 11th, 2001 terrorist attacks, when the towers were destroyed, the words World Trade were frequently censored when Juicy was played on the radio. This line became one of Big's most famous lyrics, inspiring his July 1995 cover shoot with the Source magazine. Photographer Shai Modu, I don't know if that's how you say his name, remembers, when the idea came to me to represent Notorious B.I.G. as the King of New York, I thought what better setting than to have 2 of the quintessential New York City buildings in the background. The image is Biggie posing in a colorful sweater with the World Trade Center in the background. It's a interesting song, interesting foresight there. Obviously, he died before 9/11 happened. Or did he?
Or maybe he was killed because he predicted 9/11 or knew something.
Very true. That is also a good theory. This is all very true because we are 2 people with microphones on a podcast talking about it. I remember hearing It Was All a Dream sampled in songs before. I looked up if it's been sampled before. 296 times it's been sampled.
Oh my God.
So didn't even bother looking through all the songs to figure out which one I remember it from, because there's a lot in there. And some of them I don't even remember hearing the sample in, and I've heard the song before. So
yeah.
kind of crazy. The chorus is sung by Total, which is an R&B girl group from Newark, New Jersey, who is signed to Bad Boy Records. And Biggie says it's all good a lot of times throughout the song. He's kind of happy with his life in this song, I feel like, which is kind of a nice break. As you were saying about the previous song, it's lighter, and this song I think also feels lighter. Like it's not as, like his life isn't as terrible, as it used to be. The last thing I have to say is I could go without Puff Daddy talking throughout the entire song and just contributing nothing except being annoying. This song is a 3.
First thing I want to say about the song, there is a sound effect in this song that I swear is the same sound effect that's used in the makeover scene from The Princess Diaries.
Oh my God. Oh, that's a crazy deep cut.
It sounds exactly the same. I swear if you go watch that scene, you will hear that sound effect. And then if you come to the song, you're going to be like, oh my God, it's the same sound effect.
That's crazy. That's also crazy that you remember that.
Yeah, it's so distinct that I just remembered. That being said, this is a song that I have heard before. I didn't mention if I had heard anything of Biggie's before, because I wanted to wait till we got here. Because this is honestly the only thing that I'd known of his. It's this song. And I actually really love this song. I know I've spoken before about how I'm not really into rap. I'm not that interested in it. But this is one of the songs that just clicks for me. It really works for me, and it kind of makes me see why people like love rap so much, which I totally respect, obviously. I think like the production of this song is so good. I think it pulls you in with the beginning and then keeps you going with the beat and the lyrics and all that. I also feel like, to your point about Biggie kind of being happy here, when I was listening to this, it felt to me like he's kind of planting his feet and being like, okay, like I can relax almost, I can just live my life, which I kind of like. But this is one of the 2 contenders for my favorite song on this album. This is a 4.5.
Wow.
I really like the song. Yeah.
That's higher than I thought you were going to go, that's impressive. This is a good song.
Yeah. It worked for me. It just worked.
Track number 11 is Everyday Struggle. Produced by the Blues Brothers, it samples Don't Change Your Love by the 5 Stairsteps and Either Way by Dave Grustin. I Don't Want to Live No More. Biggie is back to being suicidal after 2 songs. So he's just like me for real. This is probably my favorite chorus that he raps. This is also a great beat. One of the most memorable beats on the album, I think. Catch Me If You Can, like the Gingerbread Man. You better have your gat in your hand, because, man, I don't want to live no more. I can't get much better than that. We get a Amtrak mention. I'm seeing body after body, and our Mayor Giuliani ain't try to see no black man turn to John Gotti. That's a pretty good connection to our movie, Famous Mobster. We get a Toyota mention, which to me counts as a Lexus mention number 3, because we know what he's at the dealership for. This song is a 4. This one is my favorite from the album. This one, like you said about the previous one, just clicks for me. I just totally got it. And this one's really fun. I like it a lot. I shouldn't say fun because it's like super dark, but like I had a good time listening to it. I'll say that.
I really like the production. The beat is excellent. I think it's actually, I agree that it's the best probably beat in the whole album. It also felt like the song kind of has this slightly off-kilter feeling to it, which I think fits perfectly with the song, based off what it's about. And then I did want to shout out the ending, I think is my favorite part, where the music and the beat are just going, which I feel like I typically don't like that much in songs where, the lyrics end and then the music continues for a while, but here it worked. This is a 4.
Nice.
I agree. A lot of agreement today, I will say.
We're doing pretty well. And Biggie's doing well, too. He's got a good album.
Well, not in this song, because he's suicidal. But
well, true, yeah.
Overall, he's doing well.
He's not doing well, like, mentally. Which continues into track number 12, Me and My Bitch, produced by Chucky Thompson and the Blues Brothers, and Diddy, of course. It samples Pink Cookies in a Plastic Bag Getting Crushed by Buildings, which is a song by LL Cool J.
What?
And Wino and Junkie by Richard Pryor, which is a stand-up routine. That's where we get "You look so good, huh? I'll suck on your daddy's dick," which is a line that I have seen a million times on Twitter, mostly as like a genius screenshot with Biggie's face in the background. And it's just like, cool.
Nice.
I once again did not know the context of that. Didn't think it was real. It is real. On Genius, it lists the beginning as spoken by Notorious B.I.G, Puff Daddy, and Girl. And the intro, if you don't remember, is Diddy talking to a girl about if she would kill for him. And I have the annotation here. Puff is irritated that the girl took a second to think about if she would commit a capital crime for him that would either put her in prison for a very long time or for the rest of her life. A quote-unquote real bitch would do it with no hesitation for her man. Biggie says he's going to beat his wife on this song. Verse 2 is kind of hilarious in my opinion. One day she used my toothbrush to clean the toilet. Thinking about this now, like I haven't listened to this album in a few days.
It's kind of unhinged.
This is like some of this stuff I'm just like, it's crazy. Like stepping away from the fact that this is a song. It's like, whoa, wait, what is going on here?
There's so much going on here. You have Diddy kind of doing what he was actually doing in real life. You have people washing toilets with toothbrushes. It's crazy.
You sucking on your daddy's dick.
Yeah, exactly.
This song fits the story of the album, and I like it being there. I just don't really like the song. It's a 2. But I will say, the end of this song, "Where You From? Brooklyn," and then Big Papa starts playing, is probably one of my favorite moments on the entire album.
I also agree that this song doesn't really work for me. It's got like a solid beat, but nothing else clicked. This is a 2.5. It might even go down to a 2. It's just, it didn't work for me.
Is it your least favorite?
I mean, like I said before, like in some previous episodes, I don't think I ever really like choose a least favorite specifically.
Unless one like sticks out to you.
Yeah.
As like, this is really bad. Yeah.
If we are not including the intro and the interlude, then I would say, yeah, this is definitely my least favorite. But I also agree that I love the way that it leads into Big Papa.
Track number 13, Big Papa, produced by Chucky Thompson and Diddy. It samples Bad Boys by Bad Boys, Between the Sheets by the Isley Brothers, and Dally My Baby Bad Boy Extended Mix by Supercat and Mary J. Blige. You may have missed it, but the second to last line of the first verse is "Jump in the Rover and come over. Tell your friends to jump in the GS3." And you guessed it, that is a Lexus. That is Lexus mention number 4. This song has one of the most iconic beats in the 90s in rap music. It has a great chorus. This is just like, this is a classic. This is legendary. I will say, I've heard this song before. I never realized how much of a story it is. And then I wrote down rap used to be so different. I don't love the first 2 verses that much, but the beat and the chorus are so good that this song is a 3.5.
I agree that the beat is amazing in the song. I actually only wrote down one note. It feels more smooth and laid back in some ways, maybe because he's telling a story. That being said, this is a 4.5. This is the second favorite song. That beat just goes so strong. And I kind of agree with the verses, where they are kind of weaker, but the other elements are so good that it carries the whole song.
I know. The other elements, like outside of the verses aren't bad as well, I will say.
No, definitely
but
not.
Like they're just, everything else is just so good. Number 14 is Respect, produced by Poke and Diddy, and it has vocals by Diana King. It samples Check Yourself by Ice Cube, Gunman Tune by Panhead, and I Get Lifted by Casey and the Sunshine Band. Diana King, I think, fits this song so well, and the chorus is insane. This is also a really good beat. I got some lines for you. No spouse in the house, so she rode for self to the hospital to see if she could get a little help. Umbilical cords wrapped around my neck. I'm seeing my death, and I ain't even took my first step. I made it out. I'm bringing mad joy. The doctor looked and said he's going to be a bad boy. Bad boy is a great double entendre there of he's going to do crime, and then also he's going to be affiliated with Sean Diddy Combs' Bad Boy Records. This is both a song about the entire album and then also a song that fits in the entire album. It's, I think, perfect for the album. And then also I am not talking about the outro on this song. This is a 3 for me.
Would you like me to talk about the outro?
If you really feel like it.
I don't know if I needed to hear it, that outro.
Supposedly that was real.
Don't know if I need to know that too.
Yeah. Well, I knew it, so I learned it, so you have to know now too.
So you had to pass it on. Yeah. Thank you. I did want to ask, is there any connection at all to Aretha Franklin's Respect?
I don't think so, but not that I found. But there is a connection to Check Yourself by Ice Cube.
Very true. Who incidentally just released a movie that has a 0% rating on Rotten Tomatoes.
Yeah, I saw a clip from it, and I thought, is this real? And it is.
It is,
so,
yes.
That's cool.
So,
shout out Ice Cube.
Film called War of the Worlds. But anyway, back to the song. I like the beat on this song. I realized when it comes to rap, I do like songs where there is more, music, whether it's in the background or whatever, versus songs that are just a beat and voice, pairing, like beat and voice together, I guess you should say. So I don't think it worked for me as well as some other songs. That being said, I still feel like it was strong enough to bring it to a 3.5, although that ending might bring it down to 3.
Yeah, that's why I couldn't go to a 3.5, because you do have to listen to the ending, which is like a minute long every single time. So
I think that will knock it down to 3 because, yeah, it's just not, for me, it's not necessary. I don't know for whom it is necessary at all.
Yeah,
so I think nothing. I will go with a 3, but I feel like the parts before that were more of a 3.5, closer to 3.5.
I agree with that.
So, yeah.
Track number 15, Friend of Mine, produced by Easy Mo B. It samples Method Man by Wu-Tang Clan, Spirit of the Boogie by Kool and the Gang, Seventh Heaven Larry Levin remix by Gwen Guthrie, The Jam by Graham Central Station, and Vicious by Black Mamba. I don't have anything to say about this song except for the line, "When I see the semen, I'm leaving." This is a 2. I don't really care about this at all.
I felt like the beginning was rather disorienting, and I also honestly didn't have much to say about this song, and I will say that kind of continues into the last several songs on the album. This is a 3. It's okay.
Track number 16, Unbelievable. This is produced by DJ Premier. It samples Impeach the President by the Honey Drippers, which is a song that has been sampled a lot and is quite, it has a good beat. That's why everybody keeps sampling it. But I love that name, Impeach the President. I'm always happy to see that.
Yeah.
It also samples Kitty with the Bent Frame by Quincy Jones, Snow Creatures by Quincy Jones, Your Body's Callin' by R. Kelly, and The What by Notorious B.I.G. Real quick about R. Kelly, he was the original P. Diddy.
Yeah, that's true.
So no shout out for him. And when I lived in Chicago, I could see his prison from my window.
Oh.
Shout out to Cook County. They will get a shout out. Cook County Correctional Institution. Probably not for their work because I don't support prisons.
But for the fact that at least they have him inside.
Correct. Yes. My forte causes Caucasians to say he sounds demented. I wrote that down. I think that's great.
That's fun.
Buckshots out the sunroof of Lexus Coupes. That's number 5. Unfortunately, this song is annoying. It has a terrible beat, and the R. Kelly sample is in a different key and is equally as annoying. This is a 1.5. I can't stand this song.
I did want to start out by saying that I think it's interesting that this song has more of a chorus than a lot of the other songs, which I don't know how typical that was in 90s rap. Again, I feel like this is fine. I think it's a 3. I think towards the end of this album, I might have had a little Kesha effect coming in, which is maybe why they're a little similar. My scores were similar.
Yeah, for me, it wasn't so much Kesha effect, and it was more just the songs aren't as good anymore. Because I listened to a few of the songs I didn't like out of context of the album, and I was like, no, these still aren't good.
I do wonder if I did listen to them outside the context of the album, if they would fluctuate. Because I do kind of feel like some of the stronger songs in this album maybe boosted the scores of Unbelievable or Friend of Mine up a little. But I don't know.
We got one last track, which is Suicidal Thoughts, produced by Lord Finesse. It samples Lonely Fire by Miles Davis, Outside Love by Brethren, and, of course, Q23 Dual Tone Multi-Frequency Signals North America by the International Telecommunications Union, Bell System, and AT&T.
Shout out AT&T.
Yeah, shout out. Second time this episode. Shout out AT&T. I only wrote one thing about this, which is I think this is a great end to the album, and it's a surprisingly deep song for the time. for who Biggie is and for like the rest of the album. Like this is a good song. I rated this a 3.5 because I thought that this was a good way to end the album, despite kind of the like kind of worse songs for a little bit. But yeah, I don't really have much else to say other than this is good.
I agree. I thought it was a very introspective song, which is perfect for the album. I gave it a 3.5 too. We are in agreement. I think we should introduce something else where if we are in the agreement in the first and last song of the album, it counts for something. And we are
nice
in this album.
Not counting the intro, because that's not really a real song, I guess.
Exactly.
So what did you give this album overall? Because you rated some songs pretty high.
I did. I mean, what I typically try and do, which I know I've talked about before, is just look at the average. I didn't even really look at the average with this album because I right away thought this is a 3.5. Again, I wasn't particularly interested in rap, growing up or anything like that. I feel like I'm getting into it a little more now as we listen to more albums. Yeah. I think that this album has a lot of fantastic songs, and I think that you can see just how good of an artist Biggie is. I think that this is probably close to being on par with the Kendrick Lamar album, which I know I did give a much higher score, but I think I did approach that album a little differently, where I was trying to think of it like from an outside perspective versus my perspective, which I kind of came from my perspective with this album, which is maybe why the scores are different. I could see the score for this album going up because there are a lot of really, really good songs. And I think, just as I said before, you see like the artistry of his lyrics, of the production throughout this whole album. I agree that the ending is definitely weaker. I feel like after that little run of, Juicy, Everyday Struggle, Big Papa, after that it maybe peters out, for lack of a better word, but it's still a really, really good album and one that I am interested in revisiting in the future. And I'm excited to listen to the second album.
Before I give my rating, I want to ask the question that I know I've been forgetting to ask a few times, which is, are you taking any of these songs into your like everyday rotation in your playlist?
I mean, I will probably at some point include Juicy and Big Papa, and maybe a few of the other songs that I gave 4s. I also wanted to say that I've realized that I've kind of stopped adding a lot of songs to my playlists. I'll add one here and there, but I just feel like I forget, and I will just go to the albums themselves and listen to the songs that I want to. And I feel like that's honestly an effect of this podcast, which I thought is interesting, because I found myself, I go back to like 3 or, whichever other albums we've listened to, and I will just listen to songs from there. So while I might not have added songs to a playlist from some of the other albums, that doesn't mean that I don't go back. I feel like that's kind of changed.
Definitely. I got to teach you how to make playlists, because I got like 1,000 of them. Literally, that's not a joke. I'm at like 1,200 something right now.
And I have like 4.
That's pretty good. Good start. You're starting from somewhere.
Exactly.
You kind of said something which made me think about Prince's album, which we said, Prince is obviously like a very talented musician and we just didn't connect with it. This is an album where I'm like, Biggie is a very talented musician. I connected with it. I thought this was a good album. I don't have to pretend that this is not like that. This is something that I'll listen to. Like, I actually will genuinely listen to this. And like, I think 5 of the songs have made it into my playlists as like regular rotation songs. Like there are some really good ones on here. And I don't know if it's how I went in with my expectations, but I always approach 90s rap as if this is going to be really bad and it's going to sound like it's from the 90s, because I feel like we've kind of figured out how rap music works a lot more now into the 2010s and 2020s. Maybe more so the 2010s than anything else. But I was impressed with this and I gave it a 3.5 because I feel like this is a very strong album, and I agree with you that I think it has the potential to grow even more, like as I listen to it more. And I wonder how his second album will influence this one, because the first track of the second album starts out by saying previously on Ready to Die. So it continues the story. He's much more of a like storyteller than I ever thought he would be. This was a success, and I was very impressed and pleasantly surprised by, as I have been this whole podcast, by 90s music. I don't know a lot about 90s music, but it's actually pretty good. So, that is not something I would have said before.
I feel like it will continue to surprise you.
Yeah, for sure.
And I did want to say, like how both of our pieces of media have to deal with like gangsters. We also have two pieces of media that are very long in their respective art forms.
That is true.
Did you watch it with anyone? I wonder.
I watched it with my dad. He has seen this movie before.
Does he like it?
He does. And I asked him what he would rate it afterwards, and he said probably a 4.5.
I like your dad's score. I'm very intrigued to hear what you will give it. But first,
I have a guess of what your score is going to be. I'm just going to spoil it and say 5. I did not check.
I also want to say I do have quite a few notes, as in I have several pages of notes, because the production of this film was freaking crazy. I don't know why I said freaking, considering we've been swearing this whole episode. But anyway.
You're going back to freak it. Freak it mode. This
freak
was
it, bro.
freaking crazy.
As usual, I'm going to start with the IMDb logline, and I want to hear what you think. So here goes. The aging patriarch of an organized crime dynasty transfers control of his clandestine empire to his reluctant son.
No. That tells you nothing. That's like, oh my God, Michael got the empire.
That has nothing to do with the film.
We just cut out like the first hour and a half of the movie to get to that.
Yeah. We cut out the first hour and a half and then like the last hour.
Well, exactly.
There was like half an hour left in there. So,
that's up there with one of the worst log lines I've heard.
I completely agree. So The Godfather is an epic gangster film. That is its official logline, according to Wikipedia. That is directed by Francis Ford Coppola back after Megalopolis.
Yes. I thought this was Martin Scorsese because I thought it was Goodfellas. And then about an hour and a half into it, when I was stuck at one of the many commercial breaks, shout out Pluto TV, I looked it up and I was like, oh, it's Francis Ford Coppola. That explains some things.
Goodfellas, I will say, has a lot more cocaine. So there we go.
Ooh, hell yeah.
The film is produced by Albert S. Ruddy, or Rudy. I think it's Rudy. Apologies to Albert. It's written by Mario Puzo and Francis Ford Coppola. Adapted from the novel of the same name by Mario Puzo. Cinematography by Gordon Willis. Edited by Willem Reynolds and Peter Zinner. Music by Nina Rota. Starring Al Pacino, Marlon Brando, James Caan, John Cazale, Robert Duvall, Talia Shire, Diane Keaton, amongst like 500 others.
Yeah, it's only about half of the family right there. Half of the immediate family.
Exactly. Our story begins with Mario Puzo, an Italian-American writer and gambling enthusiast, because why not? Puzo wanted to write something that would be successful, that would have a very wide appeal. And that's what brought him to the idea of a mafia story, because who doesn't love crime? Especially nowadays with, true crime podcasts and all that stuff.
Especially crime done by Italians in New York City.
Exactly. In the 40s, in black and white, almost.
Almost.
He did a lot of research. He drew a lot from real life. I don't think that, he has said that these people are specifically based off real people, but people have kind of drawn connections. So, for instance, Sonny, people have said, is very similar to the real life gangster, crazy Joe Gallo. The character of Mo Green is very similar to the real person, Bugsy Siegel, etc., etc. The most famous example, of course, is Johnny Fontaine, who everyone says is 100% based off of Frank Sinatra, who really did have mafia connections in real life. Puzo was always like, that is not true, but Sinatra was furious about the book, and he almost like beat up Puzo at a restaurant, which in my eye kind of says that, yes, it was true.
Oh, I don't have mob connections? I'm going to beat you up.
Yes.
I'm going to hire some goons to take care of you. Okay.
Exactly. He also sued to try and stop the film from getting made, so there's that too. Of course, Hollywood came knocking, and it came knocking very early, before the film, or before the novel was even released. They came to Puzo 2 years before it was published in 1967.
Was it even written?
It wasn't even written. It was an outline, and it was titled Mafia. but people liked it. It first came to Peter Bart, who was head of production at Paramount, and he considered that it would be successful. Even though, if you go to the book, a lot of people say it's very pulpy. It's not very deep, but he said, hey, this would work well as a film. And so they made an offer to Puzo. The offer was $12,500 to option the book, and another $80,000 if the film was made. And Puzo's agent told him to turn down the offer, but Puzo accepted because he really needed the money. And as Robert Evans has related, Robert Evans is, of course, a very famous Hollywood character. He was head of Paramount. But as he has said, Puzo told him he needed it to pay off his gambling debts.
Oh, nice.
That was a recurring theme in Puzo's whole life, as I've heard.
Perfect man for the job.
So 1969, Paramount announces that they're going to make the film, and they hope to release it on Christmas Day of 1971, which is a very interesting release date for a film like this. Albert Esrudi was brought in as producer, and then Mario Puzo agreed to write the script for $100,000, even though he had never written a screenplay before.
Was that because he had gambling debts?
Probably.
Nice.
Now, Paramount at the time was kind of going through a rough spell. And I wanted to kind of introduce Robert Evans because, he's a very interesting person. He was an actor turned producer who was very famous for his eccentricities, for his tall tales, for his style. And he had turned Paramount Pictures around from near bankruptcy and turned it into like one of the leading studios of Hollywood. He brought Barefoot in the Park, The Odd Couple, Rosemary's Baby, Romeo and Juliet, and released those under Paramount and turned it into a success. But they had kind of had a bad year before the release of The Godfather. They had released several films that bombed. One of their films, called The Brotherhood, which was also about the mafia, was a particularly bad bomb. And Evans looked at the fact that the film starred and was directed by non-Italians, Kirk Douglas and Martin Ritt, and decided that they needed an Italian director to make The Godfather, quote, ethnic to the core. I don't know what that means specifically, or I know what it means, but I don't know what he truly meant by that.
Shout out Italy.
Shout out Italy. They went to various different directors. They went to famous spaghetti western director Sergio Leone. He turned it down. Of course, he would go on to make his own gangster film with Once Upon a Time in America later. But eventually, Peter Bart suggested Francis Ford Coppola. Now, Coppola was not a big name by this point. He had directed like 2 or 3 films at this point, I think. But they weren't big films. And he actually turned down the offer because he found the novel to be really sleazy and sensationalist without any, deeper meanings. The problem was that the studio that he was running with George Lucas, called American Zoetrope, was in a lot of debt. So he needed the job.
Also, weirdly, a recurring theme throughout his life, too.
Yes.
That he's in a lot of debt.
Constantly in debt. Kind of the opposite of George Lucas, who after Star Wars always had billions of dollars just lying around seemingly. But, he went back to the novel. He found a deeper theme for the material and decided that he would do it. He decided to focus on the film as a family chronicle and use it as a metaphor for capitalism in America. And so he joined, and he was paid $125,000 plus 6% of the gross rentals, which is a pretty good deal considering that it's 1970 by this point, 71. Now, Puzo was still writing the script, but Coppola started writing his own script. So they were writing one on the East Coast and one on the West Coast. And they kind of at first disagreed about what they wanted. Puzo, he had already, by the way, submitted a 150-page first draft.
Jesus.
Which is crazy. Yeah, for the uninitiated, the general rule of thumb in screenwriting is that you don't submit something over 120 pages, because that will be too long. So this was 30 pages over that.
On the first draft.
On the first draft. And Puzo wanted to keep it more similar to the book, but Coppola obviously wanted to go in the direction he had kind of found as he considered the project. Eventually, they did kind of get on the same page, and they would share their scripts and work together to decide what to change, what to cut out, what to add in, etc., etc. And the final script was submitted in 1971, and it was 173 pages long.
I was wondering how long. I knew it'd be more than 150.
It was very, very long. It was 40 pages over the limit that Paramount had given them. So there's that. It should also be noted, I don't want to call out that Robert Towne, who is probably most famous for writing Chinatown, did uncredited work on the script. He was also famous as a script doctor. That being said, there were still some scenes that were written during production. This is probably where the real problems started to arise, and these problems would continue throughout production and into post. The first problem came between Coppola and Paramount because they disagreed over the film's time period and setting, because Paramount did not want to spend a lot of money. They wanted to shoot in Kansas City and set it in the modern time period of the 70s in order to make shooting cheaper. But Coppola said, hell no, I'm shooting this in New York City and it has to take place in the 40s because, the importance of that time period to the story.
Why Kansas City? Do they have like crazy tax breaks at that point? Because no one shoots anything in Missouri anymore.
I could see that. I could also see it being the fact that it's Kansas City. So no one goes there, and because that would be cheaper to rent stuff there.
It's just interesting. That's like a weird place to shoot a movie.
Who knows? That being said, Coppola was able to win out the argument because the book came out and was so successful. It remained on the New York Times bestseller list for 67 weeks. It sold 9 million copies over 2 years. Partially because of that, Paramount kind of relented and agreed to maybe put down more money to shoot in New York and to let the film be set in the 40s. But the problems would only continue, especially between Paramount and Coppola. There was another big problem that also arose around this time, and that was the actual mafia. Joseph Colombo, who was the boss of the Colombo crime family, which is was one of the big five of the New York City mafia, had created the Italian-American Civil Rights League. And he used that to lobby against the film because, as he claimed, it spread harmful stereotypes against Italians. Says the guy who literally does the things that the film is about. So
that's an all-timer right there.
I know, right? He also demanded that the words mafia and Cosa Nostra, which is the Italian phrase for mafia, be taken out of the screenplay. And he went pretty far to get his demands met. He shot out Albert S. Rudy's windows. He called Evans at his home and threatened to kill him and his family. Rudy was also tipped off that his car was being followed, so he switched his car with his assistant. And his assistant later found her car with the windows shot out and a note on the window that read, or like on the front window that read, "Shut down the movie or else." So they really pushed to get this film stopped.
Hey guys, we don't do crime. We're just going to shoot out windows and threaten to kill you. But we don't do crime.
Exactly. Now, Rudy was able to appease Colombo and the League during a meeting where he agreed to, first of all, drop all mentions of mafia and the Cosa Nostra from the script, and to let them go over the script themselves to cut out anything that they didn't like. He also agreed to hire actual mafia members as advisors and extras in the film. So there are real mafia members in this film. When Paramount Pictures owner, because it was owned by, I believe, Gulf and Western, or one of those big conglomerates at the time. But when the owner, Charlie Bloodhorn, found out that Ruddy had made an agreement, he fired him. But he was convinced by Evans to let Ruddy come back into the film. Now, you would think after that, things maybe started going better, but they only continued to get worse because nobody could agree on casting. Coppola and Paramount clashed repeatedly. The first thing that they clashed on was the fact that Coppola spent a lot of time on screen tests, which kind of pushed the production back. But of course, I would say, hey, if you don't cast the right people, your movie's fucked anyway, so maybe give them some time, but it is what it is. One of the big problems was that Puzo and Coppola wanted Brando. Puzo had actually been the first person to say that Brando should play the part of Don Vito. He actually wrote him a note, and the note pretty much said, hey, I think that you're the perfect person for this role, and Brando was actually interested. The problem was, at this point in time, Brando was kind of seen as poison. A lot of his films in the 60s had bombed, and he had become famous for being difficult to work with because would not memorize his lines. That was a whole part of his philosophy of, if I like say them after seeing them for the first time in the moment, they will come across more naturally, etc., etc. Pretty much, Paramount did not want to deal with him. Coppola did want to hire Brando, and they went back and forth with Paramount for months until Paramount finally agreed to consider Brando, but with a caveat. Brando had to do a screen test. Now, Brando, in spite of the fact that he was viewed as difficult to work with, was still one of the biggest actors of all time. So Coppola didn't want to offend him. So he told him that they were just going to do a camera equipment test and use him for a scene, kind of disguising the screen test. Brando surprised everyone, though, by stuffing cotton balls into his cheeks and putting shoe polish into his hair to darken it to turn into Don Vito, which is kind of a famous story from this production, that he did this in production itself. That's not true. They would later make a little mouthpiece to give him, the sunken effect with his cheeks. The cotton balls were only for the screen test.
I was going to ask, because his underbite is insane in this movie. Like, it was uncomfortable to look at some points.
If you look at before and after pictures of him in makeup, it's crazy how much older he looks and how different he looks.
Yeah, because wasn't he like 40 at this point?
He was in his 40s, yes.
Yeah.
He was much younger than seems in the film. Thankfully, when everyone at Paramount saw the tests, they were impressed and they let Coppola hire Brando, but he had to agree to be paid less and had to put up a bond in case he held up or shut down production. Some of the other roles were more easily cast. John Cazale was, I think, quite quickly cast. Same with Diane Keaton, Robert Duvall. Coppola also hired his own sister, Talia Shire, to play Connie. It should be noted that Puzo pushed for her to be considered, and Coppola didn't want to cast her because he didn't want to be accused of nepotism. But eventually, he decided that she would be right for the role of Connie. The problem was there was one role that was extremely difficult to cast, and that was Michael Corleone. And casting for that role went almost up to production. Now, Evans wanted a big name. He was considering Ryan O'Neal, Robert Redford, Warren Beatty, all men known for being very handsome, who were all big stars at the time. But Coppola didn't want any of them. He wanted Al Pacino. Now, at this point in time, Al Pacino, nobody knows him. He has been on stage. He has maybe made a couple of movies, but nobody knows who this man is. Paramount did not want him at all. They pushed back, and partially because they said he was too short to play the role. Evans even called him the midget, which I found kind of crazy. He is shorter than all the people that they were considering, but it's not like he was like 5'0" or something. So Coppola pushed, and finally they agreed if Coppola agreed to cast James Caan as Sonny, which I think worked out perfectly for the film. I also did want to say one person was cast with the help of the mafia, and that was Al Martino, who plays Johnny Fontaine. He went to Russell Bufalino, who was the crime boss of the Bufalino family. Russell Bufalino helped him win the role. That being said, when he did, Sinatra threatened to bar him from all nightclubs in Vegas because he would be playing the character based off of Sinatra. He still did the project though. And so we move into production, where you would think things would maybe calm down a little bit and go smoothly.
No, I've been through Coppola before. I know this is going to be a disaster.
This is going to be crazy. To start off with, 90% of the film was shot in and around New York City. The Sicily sequences were shot in actual Sicilian towns. They didn't shoot in the actual town of Corleone, though, because it was too developed by that point to be filmed in. So now to get into a lot of the issues that plagued the production. The first problem was that Coppola and cinematographer Gordon Willis had a tempestuous relationship. They would often break into screaming matches and would break props sometimes. One time, some crew members heard such a loud bang from Coppola's office that they thought he had been shot. Actually, the door had just been destroyed during one of their arguments, which I thought was fun. A large part of their conflict actually came from the fact that Willis was very hard on the actors because a lot of the scenes he was shooting were very dark. And so he was hard on them to hit their mark. And Coppola considered himself a quote unquote protector of actors. He wanted to be there for them. Of course, in Megalopolis, he was maybe there a little bit too much for some of the extras. But anyway, that being said, their work together has been influential for generations to come. It set the look of the crime genre, I would say, even until now. They work together to kind of cut out all modern filming elements to focus on, setting the camera, making tableaus, making, scenes look like painting, stuff like that. And there's also the fact that, they brought a lot of dark lighting to the film. I would say in some parts making it look kind of noir. In some ways, this was kind of necessity because when it came to Brando, his makeup meant that Willis had to kind of use a lot of overhead lighting. But he liked the effect and he extended it through the rest of the film and gave it that very dark color palette. And he actually earned the nickname the Prince of Darkness because of that.
Shout out Ozzy Osbourne, rest in peace.
That's right. Rest in peace, Ozzy Osbourne. Paramount, of course, freaked when they saw the first rushes because they thought it was a mistake. But Willis and Coppola told them that this was the look that they wanted. This trend of Paramount kind of being dissatisfied with Coppola was a constant throughout production. And a big part of that was the fact that he was also behind production. He was behind schedule. And he knew that he was in hot water to the point that he heard that Evans was considering replacing him with another director because he was scared that Coppola was too inexperienced because of the film's, increased scope and size. And Coppola has said, quote, "I was seriously on the verge of getting fired maybe on 3 or 4 occasions. Had I not won the Oscar for Patton in 1970, which I will note he wrote the screenplay for, I would absolutely have been fired from The Godfather," end quote. And this wasn't helped by the fact that there was actually a coup taking place behind the scenes. It was led by the original editor of the film, Aram Avakian, unfortunately an Armenian. Come on, bro, what you doing? But he schemed to get Coppola fired by telling Evans that he couldn't edit the film because Coppola wasn't filming enough footage. Evans had just seen the footage from the scene where Michael kills the police captain and Salazzo, though, and he was satisfied with it. And so because of that, he threw his weight behind Coppola and fired the conspirators that were going behind Coppola's back. And I did want to read this quote from Coppola because I thought it was very interesting. Quote, "Like The Godfather, I fired people as a preemptory strike. The people who were angling the most to have me fired, I had fired," end quote. Which I thought was very interesting. I wonder if maybe that would lead into the way he dealt with the art department on Megalopolis, because he kind of just outright fired them at some point too. I also did want to note that Brando said he would walk if Coppola was fired, kind of throwing his weight behind. But Coppola wasn't the only person who was almost fired. The studio really, 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 really disliked Pacino. They were dissatisfied with the work that he was doing. And Pacino was also kind of unsure of how the film would turn out. He has actually said that he thought his career was going to end during filming of the wedding scenes with Kay because he thought, oh my gosh, this film might not be good. But his perception kind of changed when he saw Coppola crying because he didn't have enough time for another setup. And seeing Coppola's passion made him realize that this might actually be a really good film. Evans was eventually swayed in terms of his dislike for Pacino in the very same scene that kind of swayed his view of Coppola, and that was the scene where Michael kills the captain and Salazzo, and they allowed him to stay on. It should be noted that Brando was reportedly not difficult to work with on set. He did not memorize his lines, first of all. He would tape cards around the set, including onto onto the other actors. But again, this was part of his method because he considered that, if you do a cold read into the camera, to the camera, that makes your performance more authentic, et cetera, et cetera. But again, he seemingly was not difficult to work with. And I did want to note that it seems that he would become very difficult to work with a director he realized he could control. So it seems like on this film, he knew that Coppola had control and that Coppola knew what he was doing. So he kind of was like, okay, I'll do my job. versus some other films. I did want to note that the story about the cat in the opening scene being a random cat that Brando found and added is true. And the cat's purring was so loud that all of his lines had to be dubbed over in the scene, which I thought was fun. Other things I did want to note, Sonny's death scene, they could only do it in one take because of the fact that it was so expensive and would take so long to, set up again. It cost $100,000, just that one scene. And they used 110 squibs, which for those who don't know are the little things that will kind of rip through your clothes and like release blood to make it look like you've been shot. They had to set up multiple cameras because they knew they only had one shot. Another violent moment that we got to discuss is the horse's head. And I want to ask you, did that horse's head look real to you?
I don't know. I was just like, holy shit, that's a horse's head. I didn't really think about it.
I asked you because it was a real horse's head.
Jesus.
Coppola was unsatisfied with the fake ones that they'd been using during rehearsal, so he went to a dog food company and got a real horse's head. As he has said, it was already dead when they got it, and it would have died anyways, so it didn't die for production. I don't know if that changes anything for you, but that's what Coppola said. And the studio actually did tell them to add more violence because they thought that would add to its appeal. So that's why they added in the scene where Connie and Carlo are beating the shit out of each other and their apartment. Or Carlo's beating the shit out of Connie and she's destroying the apartment.
That was long and felt a little self-indulgent, in my opinion.
And turns out that it was probably the studio that mandated that it be like that. Who knows? On a lighter note, I did want to say that Coppola also had a tendency of eating James Caan's lunch. And Caan decided to kind of punish him for doing this after repeatedly telling him to stop by putting in spicy hot peppers. And they were so hot that Coppola reportedly cried. There was also a lot of mooning on set, as started by Caan and Duvall, because it was the 70s. This included Caan sticking his butt out of a car window and Brando and Duvall mooning 400 cast, crew, and extras while shooting the wedding scene, which, hey, crazy time. In the end, in spite of almost being fired, in spite of a lot of stress, and in spite of all the crazy stuff that was going on, Coppola brought the production in ahead of schedule and under budget, which is kind of crazy. Most of post-production was trimming the film to get it down to a manageable length. A lot of scenes were cut that centered around Sonny because they didn't have to do with the story, really. And this actually pissed off Caan. But hey, this film was already really long, and we did not need those scenes because you don't feel like that something's lacking, to be honest. And actually, one of the first cuts that Coppola submitted ran only 2 hours and 6 minutes. But Evans demanded that it be longer. He said, cut back scenes of the family in. And that added in approximately 50 minutes. Coppola also hired Italian composer Nino Rota to compose the score, but Evans really disliked his quote-unquote highbrow score and wanted to fire him, but he was persuaded by Coppola to stay, which I'm really happy about because I love the score for this film. It has obviously gone on to become very famous. I also wanted to note that Coppola's own father, Carmine, also composed music for the film, in particular music for the band during the wedding scene. And of course, some traditional Italian songs were used. Now, the film released on March 24th, and just like the book, it was a smash hit. It grossed $291 million over its theatrical runs and re-releases altogether. And that's with a budget of somewhere between $6 and $7 million, which is crazy. Now, unlike the book, which was viewed, as I said before, as very pulpy and without much substance, it was also a critical hit. It received acclaim from pretty much everyone. It was nominated at the Oscars for Best Picture, Director, Actor for Brando, Supporting Actor for Caan, Duvall, and weirdly Pacino. That's kind of part of the category fraud that we've kind of discussed before. For adapted screenplay for Puzo and Coppola, costume design, film editing, sound and dramatic score. I mean, it pretty much got nominated for everything. And it would go on to win Best Picture, Director, Actor, and Adapted Screenplay. It should be noted that Nino Rota did receive a nomination for dramatic score, but later was revoked, and I couldn't find out why. And of course, Brando's Oscar win that night turned into the famous moment where he declined and sent Sashim Littlefeather, an activist for Native American rights, in his stead to read a letter about the mistreatment of Native Americans in film and in the industry. Sadly, it was met with a lot of derision from the audience, although there was some support too. And raging racist John Wayne had to be stopped from getting on stage and assaulting Littlefeather. I did want to say, ironically, Littlefeather has been accused of falsifying her Native American heritage later in life, so not the best ending to that story. Of course, The Godfather has gone on to be considered one of the best films ever made. It's influenced all media and perception of the American Mafia post its release, including in film. It launched Coppola's career as a director. It launched Pacino's career alongside with a lot of the supporting cast who were also younger. It revitalized Brando's career, which had been waning in the 60s, as I said before. And the film has also added words and phrases to the English lexicon, such as "I'll make an offer he can't refuse" and "bada bing." Now, I want to ask you, when you were watching this film, how much was Megalopolis on your mind?
Not a ton until I realized it was Coppola. Even then, I don't know if it really was on my mind, but it definitely helped explain some things. One of them being how goddamn long this movie is. Like, that must be his thing.
Well, that kind of leads me to my next question and to what you thought. What was your reaction seeing this film after seeing Megalopolis? Unless, of course, that didn't even come or wasn't part of your reaction.
Seeing it after Megalopolis, I have learned that I don't necessarily think that Coppola ever really had it, which is my hot take.
That's a very hot take, yeah.
I don't know. It felt similar in a lot of weird ways of being kind of overly indulgent in certain aspects of it. It felt very slow, which in this case I didn't mind because I liked kind of the introduction into the world, and I thought the family dynamics were super interesting. The other thing is it has a huge cast, and I was unable to keep track of people for a while, and then I also couldn't keep track of who was aligned with who at each part. But yeah, I guess my big takeaway is I don't think I like Coppola as a director. Maybe a little bit more I like him as a director, but I definitely don't like him as a storyteller. I just did not really connect with this that much, which I thought was weird. And I will say that I understand why people like it. I think it's well designed. And it's it definitely feels like a classic film, and it feels like it's something that is good, but I just didn't really care that much.
I do want to ask, do you think your opinion on the film would change if you saw more films in the genre, or is it more you can see its influence even if you still don't like it that much?
I definitely can see its influence, and I can see there were parts that I enjoyed that I was really invested in.
It didn't feel cohesive to you more, maybe?
I don't know if it's necessarily that. It felt more like the story, and this is kind of what I said about Megalopolis. The story was just kind of a collection of ideas rather than a kind of 3-act structure. Obviously it's in there, and I understand why some of it happened, why we start with the family and kind of get a ton of backstory. But after a while, it just starts to be okay, we're just kind of watching a sequence of events and not really a super structured story. This, to me, this film could have started 20 years earlier and ended 50 years later, and it would feel exactly the same. It just covers such a long amount of time.
That's interesting.
It didn't just do much for me. Now, I will say that I thought visually this was a very good film, and I thought the actors were very good as well.
I did want to ask you specifically what you thought about Brando, to be honest.
I thought he stole the show for sure. I also thought his character was very well done. It's both the way it was written, but then also the way he acted it. You can feel that he is in charge, and you can feel he has this gravitational pull. He has everyone around him. And I thought that was the casting of Marlon Brando was that was good. That was one of the best decisions that they made, I think.
I agree. I also did want to ask, is this your first time seeing Brando?
I'm pretty sure. I feel like I have, like, feels very familiar to me. So maybe he was in something else I've seen. I just didn't realize it was him. But this is my first time like looking at a film and saying, "Oh, that's Marlon Brando." Okay.
Yeah, that's what he looks like, even though he doesn't look like that in real life.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. Also, I want to say Al Pacino looks like Dustin Hoffman.
I can see that, yeah. But to kind of continue on talking about Al Pacino, what did you think about him? Did you think the studio was right or Coppola was right?
I don't remember who who is who on this one. The studio didn't like him, right?
Yes.
Okay. Paramount's wrong.
I agree.
Coppola's
completely.
right. I thought Pacino was very good in this role. He's just the right amount of pretty to like sell that he could get out of the family. But then also he's got that edge about him where it's like, oh yeah, he's a mobster at heart.
I love him in this film. I think his performance in the sequel is like 10 times better, which I know might be my hot take.
Oh.
But maybe it's also because of the way the character is written. But in that film, I feel like he steals the second film while Brando steals the first.
Is Brando in the second one?
No.
Okay, I didn't think so because he died.
Yes, his character is, because the first film, it's kind of, it follows Michael continuing the story of the first film while also showing kind of Vito's rise to power. So it shows a young Vito Corleone, and he is played by Robert De Niro.
Oh, that's intriguing.
Who also gives a really good performance. He incidentally also won the Oscar for playing the Godfather. And I think they're the only two actors who won the Oscar for playing the same character, I believe, in history.
That's very interesting. So I didn't really want to go first and kind of rain on your parade, but I want you to tell me about how much you love this film, because I assume you love it.
Look, everyone can have different opinions, and that's perfectly valid because everyone's different. That being said, I do love this film. This is not a film that I can watch like a lot. That being said, I've seen it several more times and I will continue to watch it in the future, but I'm not going to watch this like every year or something, or I'm not going to like watch this just on a whim. This is definitely not something to just sit down and watch. You have to, I feel like, prepare for it because it is very long and it is very dense. It's very, very dense. Yes. And kind of to talk about its denseness, it is very easy to get lost in this film and the other Godfather films. That doesn't take it away from me because I feel like the more you watch it, the more you understand and the more you like comprehend about what's going on, and that makes it better and better. I feel like the first time I watched it, I loved it because of the performance and the cinematography, and for a lot of elements of the story, even if I was confused. And the more I've watched it, the more I've loved it for the story on top of everything else. So I am very intrigued to see what you think of it if you do ever revisit it. Obviously, I think that will be in the far future, not anytime close to now. But I would be very intrigued. To me, I think it's undeniable that this is a masterpiece, even if you don't like it, in the sense that it's done well, you know, in terms of cinematography, in terms of acting, production design, all those elements. Again, that's just my opinion though, and I understand if other people might not have that opinion, but I think at least in the technical aspects, it's undeniable how beautiful this film is, for lack of a better word. I don't know really what else I have to say aside from the fact that I actually think I might prefer the second film, which might be a hot take or a divisive take.
I believe this film is rated second of all time by IMDb.
Behind Shawshank Redemption.
So that is a hot take.
Yes, but I mean, I feel like the second film goes kind of deeper into the corruption of Michael Corleone, which I honestly find a little more interesting than kind of the story about the family, although that's still very interesting. But that kind of does lead me to wonder what you will think of it if we ever do get around to watching it. That being said, it's obvious this is a 5. This is a 5 for me. And I want to say that Al Pacino was robbed of an Oscar for this film.
My rating is kind of complex because this should be a 2.5. It has all of the makings of a 2.5, but I'm going to do a Prince rule maybe here, which I guess, yeah, we did coin the Prince rule. That's right. We did for sure. So that's when you can recognize that something is amazing even if it's not for you. So this one does. Right. This one does get bumped up to a 3 because visually, I think it is very nice and I think it is well acted, even if it is not for me. So I can't go any higher than that because I don't feel super invested in kind of most aspects of this film. So this one is a 3, unfortunately. And IMDb, unfortunately, you are wrong in my opinion.
I mean, they're kind of wrong in my book because I don't think it's the best Godfather film. So we kind of agree there.
That's true. Yeah. You also asked a question before that I didn't really answer and then we kind of forgot about, which is like, is it a genre thing? And I don't think it's a genre thing because I am very interested in like gangster and like crime stuff. I just think it's more of a Coppola thing that it just, the way he writes doesn't really work for me. So
I am going to make a prediction right now that you will love Goodfellas a lot more because I feel like in some way it's a little more accessible while still being, in my opinion, a masterpiece. Like that's, not to spoil it, but that's a 5 for me too. And I think it is much easier to get into than The Godfather. It's less dense.
I'm not sure I've ever seen a Scorsese movie before. So throwing that out there.
Let's throw it out there, guys. On that.
Is that where we end?
Really interesting week. I think that is where we end.
Yeah, it is a very interesting week. And for two things that aren't like seemingly related, they actually are pretty related in a lot of ways. And also, we didn't even like talk about the fact that they're both in New York. Like that's huge piece of both the movie and the album. So big shout out to New York.
Big shout out to New York. But one day, hopefully.
Live show at Radio City Music Hall, you and me.
That's right. We will fill up that giant auditorium.
Hell yeah.
Guys, check us out on Instagram. We are also on TikTok now. We have been for a little while. Check us out there for updates, for fun little videos where we guess top 7 songs of a certain year.
Or movies of a certain year.
Yeah, or movies. Something new for you guys to look forward to. Brandon, where can they email us?
upcpod@gmail.com.
That's right. With your criticisms, with your praise, with your notes.
You can threaten us too if you want.
That's right. Especially me. I don't know why, but especially me. And follow us on our Letterboxd and Rate Your Music accounts to see our scores again.
Yeah, I think you covered basically all of our bases there.
We will see you next week, guys.